What do you think about the possibility that baseball decides to move their All-Star game out of Atlanta because of this political issue?
I think today's professional athletes are acting incredibly responsibly. I would strongly support them doing that.
Charles Payne is joining me now. He's the host of Making Money with Charles Payne on Fox Business. Charles, thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, I want to flash back to March 25th really quick and talk about the Georgia voting law that was signed by Governor Brian Kemp that immediately sparked backlash. We had President Biden saying that he would strongly support Major League Baseball moving their All-Star game out of Georgia, which of course has since happened. You took to Twitter to actually express some thoughts about this. I'm just going to read your tweet now. You said, "We just watched the White House force MLB to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta, taking at least $50 million out of the pockets of Black businesses and workers. What part of this issue is Jim Crow?" So first and foremost, what are your thoughts on Major League Baseball taking the All-Star game out of Atlanta and moving it to now Colorado?
I thought it was just such a poor knee-jerk reaction, and just crumbling under the pressure of a few phone calls, albeit I know the White House, and they tried, of course, later to try to clean it up. President Biden sort of suggesting this was a MLB decision. But there have been reports of all kinds of celebrities calling up MLB and voicing their disappointment, and it was just such a quick knee-jerk reaction. And then you say to yourself, well, the commissioner of baseball is still going to get his salary. All the baseball players are going to get theirs. The TV networks that run it, everyone's going to get paid, except those people that had this exceptional opportunity, and many of them are going to make a lot of money. And Atlanta is a beacon, right? It's probably the most popular city for Black Americans. I've got so many relatives there. My father, who passed away 4 years ago, is buried there. I've got friends who just moved there. Almost not a year goes by when I don't have at least half a dozen friends who moved there for economic opportunities. So something like this is a huge thing. It's not one day. It's in the weekend. They got the home run hitting contest. It's an amazing event. It's an amazing opportunity. It could change lives. And in a snap decision, they took it away. And so I'm wondering, what part of all of this is really, and not, it hurts or helps Black people the most. And of course, since then, it's mushroomed into something even greater with, these corporations signing letters and coming out with these statements. I think it's the kind of virtue signaling that makes things worse. In more ways than one. I think it divides the nation more. And I think in terms of real economic opportunity, we saw it right there in our phrases. They destroyed economic opportunities for people they said they cared about.
Can you talk a little bit more about your relatives in Georgia? What have they been saying about, this move? What's their reaction been?
It's some are political, some, are always willing to fall on the knife, be the sacrifice for the greater good, which hurts me. It bothers me. It bothers me that Black people in general are okay with the pain and suffering and even the continued discrimination that we go through being used for things like this, being used for as a reason to get to forgive student debt, for instance. Well, that would overwhelmingly help rich white folks with PhDs. Now we're at the forefront of being used to pitch climate change, and I think you might have heard not long ago when AOC talked about kids in the South Bronx with asthma and saying that it was because of climate change, when in fact it was because of a whole lot of other different reasons. But being willing to be used to push a progressive agenda that has nothing for us at the end. When you look at the end of this agenda, what's in there other than being worker ants, sort of drones in a controlled society with big government makes all the decisions and a handful of people do extraordinarily well. So, it's heartbreaking, but that's where we are, where the political message has superseded the notion of even I'm going to be sacrificed again, or the things that have happened to my mom, my grandparents, things I don't want to happen to my children are going to be used as an excuse for me to give rich folks who make over $100,000 a year, $10,000 to buy an EV, an electric vehicle they were already going to buy. I mean, we've gone down this path, and it's so self-defeating. It's not going to work, and we're not going to be better off when it's all said and done.
I don't want to shift topics too much, but it's related to, this political messaging that you just had brought up. We had the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, defending President Biden for, repeating this claim about the Georgia voting law, that it ended voting hours early when in fact it actually extended them. We had, Fox News' Peter Doocy asking about this. Do you think that, the media is doing enough to sort of push back on this political messaging? And if not, what do we do to sort of, make sure as people in the media, as reporters, that we're giving the American people the information that they need
remain true and honest, even when it goes against your own political beliefs. For my show yesterday, I took two headlines. One was a headline about all of these folks signing, all these corporations signing this letter against these restrictive voting laws, and the other was another headline talked about this voting rights bill that the Democrats are working on, that actually is even much more restrictive than anything else individual states have done. So the media has been at the forefront of this. The media is the one stirring the pot more than anyone else. I think politicians are always worried about the media. The media is 100% outside of a few folks, of course, like the Daily Caller. They've said forget it. They've thrown away their journalistic responsibilities, any sort of oath toward the truth a long time ago, and now they are an actively engaged member foundation of the progressive movement, more so and more powerful than most politicians.
Now, I want to talk about Senate Republicans introducing legislation to actually remove MLB's antitrust protection. I believe it's been in place for almost 100 years, since 1922. Can you talk about the economic implications if this antitrust protection was removed? And do you think it's a wake-up call to other corporations, other private businesses, that if you start getting political, there could be, financial complications for you?
It could be. I thought what was interesting is that beginning with that All-Star game and the outrage in Georgia, that Delta and Coke were at the center of that, and yet they both refused to sign this letter later, this week that went out. So think about that for a moment, because they were the sort of main ones saying, okay, they picked up their pitchforks and their torches and say, yeah, how dare they? And when they had a chance to sign the bottom line, they actually refused. In part, I think Delta, where you have Republicans in Georgia prepared to remove some goodies for them that added up to about $40 million a year. Antitrust is really serious stuff. It would leave them open to competition. Thinking about how many media outlets there are out there right now, and how popular sports are, I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs looking their chops at a legitimate chance to start an alternative baseball league. You've got great players from around the world, including America. You could start a league tomorrow and be competitive against MLB. So now, having said that, I would like to see more solutions. I'm a solutions-oriented person. So, I hate having to go there, as opposed to what can we really do as a nation? What can corporations really do as a nation? One thing I brought up this morning, today, BlackRock announced their earnings. BlackRock is one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. They have 9 trillion with the T assets under management. In the last 3 months, they made $1.2 billion. That's what they made, Samantha. That's not what the revenues were. That's what they had left in their pocket. Their CEO proudly pledged that they would give $5 million for Black organizations and another $5 million toward Black and Hispanic entrepreneurs. Do you know what that comes to as a percentage of what they made in the last 3 months? Try 0.008%. he signed a letter saying, you know, he's against these voting laws and they're restrictive and they're racist. He signed that letter, Larry Fink did. But wow, I would much rather see you put more money and more resources into truly helping people than this corporate virtue signaling that only makes things worse. This adds insult to injury. It's so despicable. It's so despicable to think that, you know, the amount of money that they make in an hour is with the kind of checks they want to write. And they write it to people like the Black Lives Matter woman who bought $1 million properties. You know, they're checking a box. And by the way, of all the things that are important to them, this box is at the bottom of the list. And then they want to proudly act like they're doing something for everyone else and even wag their fingers at corporations who aren't signing it. It's all a farce. It's going on far too long, and it must change immediately.
Do you think it will change immediately? I mean, do you think there's enough voices in the media to actually call out examples like BlackRock that are giving, you know, $5 million here, $5 million there, but, you know, like you said, just sort of checking a box and sort of saving face, essentially?
I don't know. I'm going to keep pushing. You know, it's just there are too many very important people, unfortunately, who have a lot more sway than I do in corporate America and Black America that are going along with the kind of stuff that's happening now. You know, people who are willing to take a stand against American injustice, but won't stand up for the Uyghurs in China. You know, people who are saying, yeah, let's get rid of fossil fuels without thinking. Imagine a world without fossil fuels for a moment. Where does that leave Africa and the Middle East, so-called people of color? Could you imagine if the world stopped using fossil fuels tomorrow? The turmoil in the Middle East, Nigeria, could you imagine? Millions of people would die. And here you have some of these athletes. Yeah, let's get rid of this stuff. Are you kidding me? Stop it. Every now and then, just turn down a check. Every now and then, just say, I've got enough and I'm making enough here that I can just maybe pivot a little bit. Or maybe every now and then, go beyond the talking points that they hang you in a slip of paper. Tell your assistant, don't print out the talking points. Bring me some books. Let me find out about this for real. Maybe when those epiphanies begin to happen, we can change this a little bit. And really, the goal here is to make Americans better. That's what I'm talking about. How do we make our nation better? How do we get to a point where we don't have to import 1 million technology workers a year? I mean, you could say, yeah, we're going to teach girls the code. Give me a break. You know, what are you teaching them? For what? So you can give the job opening away to someone from a different country who'll do it for 20 grand less? Stop it. Let's do something real and honest and really get ready for the future.
Well, Charles, I so appreciate you coming on to speak with me today about so much. There's so much going on. And obviously, I would love to have you back on as these developments continue with Major League Baseball and any other money-related topics that come up. So I really appreciate it and hope you have a great day.
You too, Samantha. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. Keep pushing.